It's Tuesday, September 19. In the headlines, more highways are being planned. In business news, NCB to increase banking fees. Regionally, Trinidad and Tobago encouraged to use AI in Carnival. Internationally, climate change, hunger concerns discussed at UN General Assembly. And in sports, Reggae Girls receives $25 million in sponsorship. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, is looking to expand operations to 2 routes covered by the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. These are Williamsfield in Manchester and Albion in St. Thomas. Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport, Minister Darrell Vaz, made the disclosure at the recent opening of the Maypen to Williamsfield leg of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project.
So opening up the routes for larger buses, privately owned, that can be licensed so we can take the school children in and, of course, commuters easily and more accessible.
These 6 buses expected later this year will add to the 50 units recently acquired for the state-owned company, which the minister said has been helpful in reducing wait times at the Halfway Tree Transport Centre. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says his administration will be working to further expand the island's road network. He says plans are being made to open more highways. Mr. Holness made the announcement while speaking at the recent opening of the Maypen to Williamsfield leg of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says Jamaicans should expect the Williamsfield in Manchester to Hodges in St. Elizabeth Highway.
The ultimate plan is to extend the East-West Highway to the Grill. Yes. And this highway will bypass the now Spur Tree, which is such a treacherous road.
He says plans are in place for it to be a 4-lane highway with international safety standards. Mr. Holness says the government plans to expand the North Coast Highway.
We are planning to extend the North-South Highway by another 30 kilometers to end near Trelawney. And we have started negotiations on that, and that will ease significantly the traffic flow in that area.
He also mentioned improvements in Montego Bay.
We have the Montego Bay Perimeter Road. That has already started. And that is going to ease the traffic in Montego Bay and adds speed and comfort to the traveling public in that area. We have the Caymanas Highway interchange. Now you have the East-West Highway and you have the North-South, but you have to come off of one, go through a circuitous route to get on the other. Now there will be an interchange.
The Prime Minister has said that his administration is investing billions of dollars in improving the country's road network to ensure safe and efficient travel for all citizens. In this week's Living Healthy report, we look at how to adapt person-centered health services to aging populations.
The world has committed to global goals for sustainable development that are relevant to everyone, everywhere. Part of this promise is that people of all ages get the health and social care they need. But health systems around the world are not yet ready for older populations. Older people often experience more than one health condition at the same time, and these problems tend to be ongoing. Yet, health systems are usually designed to detect and treat individual diseases and conditions. As a result, they tend to manage older people's health issues in fragmented ways, which have negative consequences. For example, older people often struggle with conflicting advice from different health providers. They may be prescribed many drugs that can have negative interactions. They also might pay higher costs for all the different services. Frequently, this fragmentation means that we miss opportunities to manage chronic conditions and prevent people becoming care dependent. But we know how health systems can better meet the needs of older populations. Health systems need to shift from managing each disease or condition separately and take a more holistic and integrated approach focused on building and maintaining older people's physical and mental capacity. The starting point for integrated health services is an assessment of the older person's goals, their capacity, and their physical and social environments. This assessment enables health and social care professionals, together with the older person and their caregivers, to develop a care plan where services are coordinated across different providers and settings and delivered in the older person's home or as near as possible. Ensuring universal access to integrated care will offer quality health services and make better use of existing health resources. Most importantly, older people will not be left behind.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
The National Commercial Bank (NCB) has announced that it is increasing the fees on 6 banking services. The bank says it has been absorbing a significant portion of these costs to keep fees to customers minimal. However, due to the current economic climate, it needed to make a few changes to keep things running smoothly and sustainably. The services to be increased are managers check processing, replacement of Visa debit card including PIN changes, check recalled at the customer's request, transfer of funds to another bank, account printouts for personal and SME sole traders, and customers receiving funds from other banks using the RTG's transfer options. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, September 18, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.52. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $116.15. The pound sterling traded for $192.11, and the euro sold for $166.40. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by over 1,229 points. The junior market index declined by over 37 points. The combined market index advanced by over 803 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by over 1,789 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 106 stocks, of which 27 advanced, 64 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Barita Investments Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and Caribbean Cement Company Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and the Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Trading firm were CAC 2000 Limited, Carreras Limited, and Epler Caribbean Property Fund Limited SCC. The overall volume leaders were Radio Jamaica Limited with over 2 million units, Image Plus Consultants Limited, and JMMB Group Limited 7.35% cumulative redeemable preference shares with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calisa Macro Index Fund posted over 7,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Insurance Corporation of Barbados Limited was the volume leader with 24 shares. They were followed by Emira Deposit Receipt, which traded 9 shares. In regional business, in the midst of uncertainty and challenges that the pandemic brought in 2020, one Belizean family saw an opportunity to spread joy one scoop at a time.
It started when Erwin Arthur Sr. became renowned for his ice creams at family potlucks. where each gathering held the delightful anticipation of a new and unique flavor.
That would be the thing I would bring, because normally as family we all bring something to the occasion. So that would be my thing. So everybody would wonder what new flavor I would bring this year, and I usually just try to keep it a little secret until they actually see what flavor I brought.
For Erwin Arthur Sr., those family gatherings were a chance to unveil his latest homemade ice cream creation, keeping the flavors a guarded secret until the big reveal. It was a tradition that sparked curiosity and then a bold suggestion.
When they taste the quality and the unique flavors that we tried to make, they said this could be a business. And when you look around Ladyville, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ladyville, there's not much places like that around there. I mean, of course you'd get the store-bought ice cream, but you wouldn't get something unique as this.
That venture began spreading joy one scoop at a time through a family ice cream business called Arctic 10. 20-year-old Erwin Jr. jumped headfirst into his new responsibility.
At first, I was a bit shocked because it's just something we do for fun, but it was very challenging starting a new business, but we just found ways around that. We didn't let the pandemic discourage us from starting a business. For example, the Ladyville branch, if you've ever been there, you would see it's an open-air, outdoor style. The reasoning behind that was because we didn't want to have to close our shop due to any new protocols or COVID precautions. And it was also for the safety of our customers. So it was challenging, but we just found ways around it.
The residents of Ladyville were quickly impressed by the homemade ice cream, ranging from alcoholic infusions to imaginative ingredients conjured by the father.
In international business, Wall Street indexes posted nominal gains as market participants looked ahead to the U.S. Federal Reserve's expected decision to leave key interest rates unchanged.
The Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ finished up a tad each, with the S&P making the biggest move, up about 0.1%. The lack of conviction from market participants comes as no surprise to Carol Schleif, the Chief Investment Officer at BMO Family Office.
I think it's tough to put too much weight on the markets today, or probably through until Wednesday after we get the Fed announcement, and more importantly, the conversation with Chairman Powell. So I think markets are holding pretty steady. It's interesting when you look down at some of the sectors that technology is leading the way today. And a piece of that could be carryover from the IPO, ARM's IPO last week. And you've got some more talk about IPO pricing and a little stability in that market, which we haven't seen in a very long time.
The information technology sector in the S&P 500 rose about 0.5%, the second best performer after energy. Though ARM Holdings fell close to 5% after Bernstein initiated coverage with an underperform rating just days after its stellar debut. North Face and Timberland owner VF Corp fell nearly 5% after Piper Sandler cut its rating on the shares to neutral from overweight. Meanwhile, traders are also watching a stalemate on Capitol Hill, which could result in a potential government shutdown. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on Monday said that while she sees no risk of an economic downturn, she warned that a government shutdown would cause a loss of momentum.
In market data for oil prices rose for a fourth consecutive session as weak U.S. shale output spurred further concerns about a supply deficit stemming from extended production cuts from Saudi Arabia and Russia. Brent crude futures were up 50 cents to $94.93 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures were up 94 cents to $92.42. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in Trinidad and Tobago, that country must leverage artificial intelligence to help the sector prosper, but with a cautious eye. This was the general consensus of an AI symposium on Carnival on Monday. Sunil Lala reports.
Of AI at Incus Services, Leslie Lefouk, pointed out that Carnival in Brazil attracts significantly more people than Trinidad Carnival, and earns a lot more revenue, adding that TNT must use AI to its advantage.
Picture every single one of your customers calling you on the exact same date to book a costume. So in the case of Tribe, for example, 30,000 people pick up the phone and they call them, they email them, they send them WhatsApp, 30,000 messages on the same day to book a costume. What do? Do they hire 5,000 people to work one day of the year? It's a really, really difficult problem to solve because the business is so seasonal. AI could assist.
But a technical and systems director, Alvin Porter, noted that a significant tool of using AI is inputting data, which he believes TNT and the Caribbean are far behind.
So if, for example, one of these students here decide that, okay, I want to design a costume for Carnival 2024, and I'm going to use the AI to generate an image, text the image, they're probably going to get a doggy sitting down with a fishbowl on his head. So until we digitize that information or people start inputting that information, AI is not going to be something that this country and probably the rest of the Caribbean can use.
As it pertains to the labour market, Carnival band producer and designer Valmiki Maharaj said he has already started to incorporate some aspects in his business.
When we were designing the other day for the opening of the Commonwealth Games, I had to do a mock-up for them. All my graphic designers were not available. Somebody went on a laptop and they said, okay, Val wants a big circle in the middle of the field, AI, do you know Commonwealth? Do you know Trinidad? Do you this? And I was just absolutely amazed by it because it helped me in a short period of time be able to give a possibility to my client.
The discussion on the impact of artificial intelligence on Trinidad and Tobago Carnival was held at Queen's Hall. Sonolala, TTT News.
Where is the voice of the trade unions on matters such as climate change and climate financing? That's the question being asked by Sandra Messiah, Sub-Regional Secretary for the Caribbean Public Services International. She was addressing the Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados.
From the workers who will have to make these things happen, one is not hearing anything. And it bugs me. And perhaps someone who's here can tell me, why is it that you're not making the statements? Why aren't you presenting the views of your current and potential membership? That's what the people out there want from you, you know. They want to join unions because they do recognize the value. They do want an organization that can speak on their behalf. But they're looking and they're listening, and maybe, just maybe, you're not saying the things or doing the things that they want to hear or want to know that you are doing. One of the things that we've been tackling within PSI revolves around the greed of the corporate world. And I'm not excluding Barbados from this. And what is happening is that profit is being put before people. This is the anger that populations are feeling throughout the world. And it is that anger that is fueling a lot of the demonstrations and actions by workers, not only in public services, but workers as well in the private sector.
Guyana's President, Dr. Ifran Ali, believes that balanced conservations on low-carbon development have been derailed, but said Guyana offers a model of how oil and gas development can be pursued alongside low-carbon, sustainable developments.
Most of Guyana's landmass is covered in vast intact forests that help to trap harmful gases like carbon dioxide and keep the planet safe from worsening disasters. Offshore Guyana, prolific oil and gas industry is developing, but this industry has been a huge contributor of those harmful gases. Many think the two pursuits conflict with each other, but the country's president, Dr. Ifran Ali, says Guyana is demonstrating how it can balance both efforts in a way that helps it fund development needs. Dr. Ali said this at a Concordia event at the sidelines of this year's UN General Assembly, but acknowledged that many do not appreciate the nuanced approach to development.
We are pursuing a development along this low-carbon development strategy in which the forest will continue to be an integral part, of the development mix, and we will continue to pursue energy mix that moves away from heavy oil and petroleum product to include natural gas, solar, and wind. It is very important for us to get back to that balanced conversation. And for that balanced conversation to take place, it requires all the stakeholders around the table.
The president also said, quote, "The conversation along net zero has been derailed to the extent that it has now become a conversation on how to end petroleum and not how do we create a balanced set of policies and programs to achieve net zero in a sustainable way," unquote. Meanwhile, former Colombian President Iván Duque said he was impressed by efforts to promote low-carbon development while using the money earned from the oil and gas industry to fund Guyana's development needs.
It's very important to understand that the global south has different challenges, and we need to finance the transition, not only the energy transition, the economic transition, the environmental transition, in a sustainable way. As President Ali was mentioning, I'm really impressed by his efforts to keep on promoting the low carbon development strategy, being a zero deforestation country, having 40% of the land in the hands of indigenous communities with land titles, and trying to change the energy matrix so that they don't depend on oil to generate electricity, but they also use the richness of the oil to face the social challenges the country has.
Both leaders believe that developing countries should be allowed to exploit their natural resources in the interest of their populations.
In international news, world leaders are gathering in New York City this week for a United Nations General Assembly, and there are major concerns that climate pledges aimed at the year 2030 are not being met. UN countries have made big goals and promises for that year. Al Jazeera's Patty Cullen reports.
A dismal rainy day at the United Nations, a fitting backdrop to a bleak status update on the progress of important UN pledges. They are called Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, adopted in 2015, 17 core promises to improve the globe and the lives of the people on it by 2030. The importance clear on the lawn of the complex, now a visual reminder of how far countries have fallen short at this, the midway point. One goal, ending hunger. The UN says last year, 9.2% of the global population experienced chronic hunger. That translates into 735 million people. On preventing the worst impacts of climate change, greenhouse gas emissions need to be halved by 2030. Commitments from the 193 countries that signed the Paris Climate Accord are predicted to mean a reduction of just 0.3%.
Yet today, only 15% of the targets are on track, and many are going in reverse.
The majority seem to agree on the reasons. The most blame goes to the COVID pandemic.
The fragile progress made has been undermined by wars such as the war of aggression launched by Russia and Ukraine, by pandemics, climate change, widespread violations of human rights.
Many nations promising to do better.
My country will spare no efforts to reduce the rates of poverty nationwide, including poverty in families, especially those with many children.
Others explaining why they haven't met the goals.
Unfortunately, continuous acts of aggression against the sovereign territory of Armenia, warmongering and hateful rhetoric of the highest leadership of Azerbaijan threaten the security and stability in our region.
Overall, the general message, it's bad. In many ways, it's not getting better, and that needs to end now.
In the end, let us remember that the pathway to build a new world that is safer, more equitable, and free is through achieving international human solidarity.
The UN has laid out the steps that the world needs to take, and the countries did sign another declaration, a promise to redouble their efforts. But given the geopolitical strife and really constrained government budgets, it's not yet clear if this high-level meeting will result in heightened progress. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, at the United Nations.
In sports, the Reggae girls have been provided with $25 million in support of their quest to get to the Olympics and bring home the trophy. The team was given the funding ahead of their 2-game Olympic qualifier against Canada this month. Jamaica is vying to become the first Caribbean country to qualify for women's football at the Olympic Games, and positive results against the defending champions Canada would do just that. The Jamaica Olympic Association's sponsorship, which is in collaboration with the Jamaica Football Federation and the Bob Marley Foundation, will see $15 million going directly to the Reggae Girls campaign, with the remaining $10 million going to player incentives. These incentives include bonuses for goals scored, assists made, clean sheets, and team prizes for Olympic qualification. With 4 matches remaining, including the final in this year's Republic Bank Caribbean Premier League, executing the perfect game will be at the forefront of each team's strategy meetings as the business end of the tournament takes shape. First up, Jamaica Tallawahs versus the St. Lucia Kings in Eliminator 1.
Defending champions, the Jamaica Tallawahs have found themselves in a repeat of last year's journey as they finished 4th on the table, marginally making it to the Final Four. They finished their 10 matches winning 4 and won no result, being the team with the least points to qualify. Their opponents, the St. Lucia Kings, barely benefited from their home games due to inclement weather, but managed 4 wins from their 10 games. From the past 5 matches, the Tallawahs have won 3. The Kings won with 1 no result. Upon closer analysis of each team's players, one name emerges: Imad Wasim, who from his 10 games have accounted for 14 wickets and scored 255 runs, making him the most dangerous all-rounder in this matchup. Brandon King has been the most consistent batter for the Tallawahs, averaging 42 runs per game. He did lack support at the top, but Alex Hales arrived to the party with a blistering 119 not out in their last group match. The St. Lucia Kings have been considered the dark horses over the past 3 years. They will rely on their middle order, who are quite experienced in Sean Williams, Sikandar Raza and Banuka Rajapaksa, to provide a run buffer for the bowling department led by Alzari Joseph. The Kings will need to erase their most recent 122-run defeat against the Tallawahs, resetting their circuit boards to victory mode, while the defending champs, the Tallawahs, are currently peaking in their performances and will feed off the momentum moving into this eliminator as favourites. The match bowls off from the Providence Stadium in Guyana on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Caribbean Time.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.